Joe Rogan, obviously, very, very popular podcaster. He's under attack. What he did was he interviewed a doctor who didn't agree that the vaccines were necessarily the best thing. There's a guy named Robert Malone. Malone, he says he claims that he invented the kind of mRNA vaccines that we've got, but he certainly was there in the beginning, did substantial work in the field in the beginning, and he feels that the vaccines have been understudied, undertested. He feels they may be dangerous. He doesn't think that necessarily everybody should take them. So Rogan has him on, and Rogan has a lot of people on, and he talks to them. Sometimes he has kooks on, and he has different things, but this apparently got under the skin of all these superannuated rockers like Neil Young and Joni Mitchell, and they all started telling Spotify that if they didn't take Joe Rogan off the air, well, they're going to have to take their music off. And at first, Spotify told Neil Young he could pound sand, he could take his music off. I love the fact, by the way, this just proves, this is a little bit of a tangent, but it just proves my theory that rock music sucks. It's 4 chords, the lyrics are for idiots, and all these guys who are like Rage Against the Machine, oh, we're rocking in the free world, they should start a new band called Obey. Their new song could be like, never disagree with government experts. They could play it like on a harpsichord. Bing, 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 So it was always a kind of music for idiots. So now they're doing this thing that they do. They mob you, they mob you, they mob you. They will not stop. They won't take no for an answer. Joe Rogan must be censored. And here is Rogan's response.
The problem I have with the term misinformation, especially today, is that many of the things that we thought of as misinformation just a short while ago are now accepted as fact. Like, for instance, 8 months ago, if you said, if you get vaccinated, you can still catch COVID and you can still spread COVID, you would be removed from social media. They would ban you from certain platforms. Now, that's accepted as fact. If you said, I don't think cloth masks work, you would be banned from social media. Now, that's openly and repeatedly stated on CNN. If you said, I think it's possible that COVID-19 came from a lab, you'd be banned from many social media platforms. Now, that's on the cover of Newsweek.
Absolutely true. So what is it all about? Rogan agreed to have some labeling, and Spotify said they're going to label. And a lot of right-wingers, this is what we're going to talk about eventually, about the whole idea of cancel culture and whether there should be any kind of cancel culture or whether the whole term is wrong, or, where are we supposed to stand as freedom-loving conservatives? Where should we stand on cancel culture? A lot of people said, well, Rogan shouldn't give anything. You shouldn't, give an inch. But I'm not against labeling that says you can get more information here, or if you want to get the government's take on it, you can go here. The more information, the merrier. It doesn't bother me. I thought that was kind of a grown-up thing for Rogan to do. That doesn't bother me. I have to tell you that I don't have doctors on the show discussing COVID for the simple reason is I can't judge whether what they're saying is true or not. So if a guy comes on and says, oh, the vaccine will make your penis fall off, I have no way of judging whether that's true. And his voice becomes in some ways my voice, and I don't want that to happen. I would have a panel on and let doctors disagree, and so you could see who was right and who was wrong. But, I wouldn't do what Rogan did. But obviously, his right to do it is absolute, and there's no reason why Rogan shouldn't talk to anybody he wants. And what he says is, I'm just a guy who talks to people. So why should people go after Rogan? Well, I think the answer is obvious. It's not because Malone, the doctor he talked to, is wrong. It's because the elites, the left, have gotten everything wrong. I mean, my favorite reaction to this was Brian Stelter's. Here's Brian Stelter's reaction to Joe Rogan.
You think about major newsrooms like CNN that have health departments and desks and operations that work hard on verifying information on COVID-19. And then you have talk show stars like Joe Rogan who just wing it, who make it up as they go along. And because figures like Rogan are trusted by people that don't trust real newsrooms, we have a problem that's much bigger than Spotify, much bigger than any single platform, Kate. But that's what is the heart of this right now.
Love it. Because, at CNN, they've got health departments and they've got newsrooms and they've got this, and everybody is screwing everybody else. They're all having sex. Jeff Zucker, the head of the company, just quit ostensibly, because he was having an affair with another woman there, another executive at CNN. But obviously, it was also must have had to do something with the fact that she and he were coaching Andrew Cuomo on what he was supposed to be saying in his COVID reports that he was giving. The CNN was saying, aren't these brilliant? These are so brilliant. Zucker and his mistress, the idea is they've only been having an affair recently. And everybody at CNN is saying, yeah, they've been having an affair for 20 years. And the reason, of course, is because they were married before this. Now they're both divorced. Cuomo is accused of harassing people. Don Lemon is being sued for harassing somebody. They've got a producer who's chasing 7-year-olds around the room. I mean, this is CNN. And meanwhile, while they're screwing everything that moves, they've gotten everything wrong. Russian collusion was nonsense. Hunter Biden's laptop was serious. That was Russian disinformation. That was, why do we trust Joe Rogan? It's not that we trust Joe Rogan. We trust him not to lie. We trust him to look for the truth, to see what he's going to say. He said, I talk to people. I get things wrong. I try to correct them. That's different than CNN, where they're selling you a lie all the time. And the thing is, our leaders, for lack of a better term, our leaders have been wrong about everything. They're wrong about racism. They're wrong about crime. They're wrong about climate change. They're wrong about COVID. It's all wrong. Here's this Johns Hopkins study, which nobody is covering except for Fox News, right? Lockdowns in the U.S. and Europe had little or no impact in reducing deaths from COVID-19. The lockdowns during the early phase of the pandemic in 2020 reduced COVID-19 mortality by about 0.2%. That's not nothing. That's nothing. That's statistically zero, really. And he says, this report says, we find no evidence that lockdowns, school closures, border closures, and limiting gatherings have had a noticeable effect on COVID-19 mortality. But, they said, it did have devastating effects on the economy and contribute to numerous social ills. Lockdowns have contributed to reducing economic activity, raising unemployment, reducing schooling, causing political unrest, contributing to domestic violence, and undermining liberal democracy, says Johns Hopkins report. So that means that everything the government has done has been a mistake, except for Donald Trump's Operation Warp Speed, which did help develop a vaccine. And I believe the numbers so far show the vaccine has been a big help. It has reduced mortality in people. It hasn't reduced necessarily the spread, but it has reduced mortality. So aside from that, everything they did was wrong. And if you will remember, Trump kept saying, I think we should reopen the government. I think we should reopen the country. We can't lock down the country. And people were screaming. CNN, Brian Stelter, all those clowns took time off from screwing each other to scream at Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, unfortunately, and this is his fault, he gave in to it. We know they know they're wrong. We know they know they're wrong because Gavin Newsom and Eric Garcetti, the mayor of L.A., Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, they're walking around at the bowl games, at the football games without masks on. And this is what Newsom says when he's asked about his 9.
I was very judicious yesterday, very judicious. And you'll see the photo that I did take where Magic was kind enough, generous enough to ask me for a photograph. And in my left hand's the mask, and I took a photo. The rest of the time I wore it, as we all should. Not when I had a glass of water or a thing. And I encourage everybody else to do so. And that's it.
What an arrogant liar. What an arrogant liar. He's an arrogant liar because he knows it doesn't matter. It has had no effect. The masks have had no effect on the spread. Maybe in a room, in a controlled experiment they do, but if you're taking it off, it doesn't matter. He's holding it in his hand because that keeps the breath from coming, the rays from coming out of your fingers. Garcetti said, I was holding my breath. I was holding my breath when I took my mask off. I mean, these guys just can't say it. We were wrong. They cannot say it. As I said, the sin of pride, they just can't do it. So they have to double down. Randy Weingarten, or as I like to call her, Miss Evil, because she's the head of the biggest teachers union, right? So I always feel like, oh, Miss Evil, can I go to the bathroom, Miss Evil? Can I, she says, oh yeah, we've got a mask. This is cut 11.
There's not a person I know who wants to wear these things, but the reason we wear them is to protect ourselves and others. It's not about, particularly in the midst of Omicron, CDC and others have basically said that this has helped protect people from huge dissemination of a very, very transmissible virus. So I would say to the governor of Virginia and to others, wait till the end of the Omicron spike. None of us want to wear the masks. We want to actually, though, make sure that kids are in school and stay in school.
So, thank you, Miss Evil. In Loudoun County, right, this is talking about the Virginia governor, because now the governor said it's up to the parents, and the schools are saying, no, we're going to keep. The schools are like accusing children of trespassing if they show up without a mask. This is really a serious issue, because it shows these teachers are A, out of their minds, and B, have got a completely blown up idea, an inflated idea of who they are and what powers they should have. So now Virginia's governor, Youngkin, the attorney general, the superintendent of public instruction have asked a court to let them become plaintiffs in a lawsuit. They want to join a lawsuit brought by parents against the Loudoun County Public Schools, lending new legal firepower to a group of parents' quest to unmask their children. And I should mention that this suit cites the Daily Wire 4 times. It cites our reporting to show how schools are taking punitive action against students who invoke their right to unmask under the oath. It's a big win for the Daily Wire. It shows the work that we're doing actually is paying off. They don't want you to keep wearing masks because they're right about masks. They want you to keep wearing them because they're wrong. It's because they're wrong. The lockdowns were a mistake. We now know the lockdowns were a mistake. The masks don't do anything. I'm still a fan of the vaccine, but even so, there's a difference between saying you should take the vaccine and saying you should be mandated, which I'm very strongly against. I'm very strongly against the mandates, but I am very much in favor of vaccines. But the lockdowns were a mistake. So here's Fauci talking about that. Let's cut 7.
I believe we'll start to see much more being open about indoor situations, be they theaters, be they restaurants, be they schools, be they workplaces. That doesn't mean that it's going to be exactly the way it was 3 or 4 years ago. But I think when it comes to travel, school, workplace, entertainment, we'll start to see a gradual return to normal, even though normal will not be exactly the way it was before all of this.
Yeah, because if it is, then we have to realize that it didn't have to happen. It didn't have to be this way. So this is one of the reasons why Rogan has to be silenced, because, maybe the guy he brought on, one of the doctors brought on, was wrong. I heard one of the interviews he gave. I thought the guy was a little bit of not the one I was talking about before, a different doctor. I thought he was a little bit of a loon, but he wants to talk to different people. Why? Negative capability, keeping an open mind, living in a little bit of uncertainty about yourself, living in a little bit of humility, knowing that what you know is nothing. You know nothing. Then you're as wise as Socrates. If you know nothing. I've always given a lot of respect on the show and elsewhere to Bill Maher. And the reason I give respect to Bill Maher is because he listens, even though he's a stone liberal, even though he's a stoned liberal, as he says himself. He says, I'm a childless, unmarried guy who sits around, a libertine who sits around smoking dope. That's what he said. That's how he describes himself. All of that, he has enough humility to listen to people who disagree with him and let them on his show. And I always get annoyed when people applaud for people they agree with on these shows, because putting your hands together doesn't make a lie the truth. It doesn't work that way. It may bring Tinkerbell back to life, but it doesn't do anything for the truth. Now, suddenly, Maher is attacking the left. Why? Because the left has gone insane. And here he is describing the problem. This is cut 2.
It's not my fault that the party of FDR and JFK is turning into the party of LOL and WTF. Members of Congress tweeting things like cancel rent, cancel mortgage, and no more policing or incarceration, declaring that capitalism is slavery, canceling Lincoln and Dr. Seuss, teaching children they're oppressors and math is racist, making Mr. Potato Head gender neutral, and now an emoji for pregnant men. Real. I'm not making it up.
I mean, the guy has his eyes open. He sees what he sees. And he's joking about the fact that he's now a hero on Fox News. That now they're saying, Bill Maher for president on Fox News. Adam Carolla heard this. Our own Adam Carolla heard this. And he started, I think it was a tweet about the audience. I've got to be careful because Adam likes his salty language, let's say, and I don't want to read that on the air, but he says, watching the Bill Maher show, now you blankety blanks clap when Bill talks about getting back to normal, shut the F up and admit you were wrong. See, this is the thing that never happens. They never say this. They never say, oh, yeah, we're talking like conservatives because the conservatives were right. They were right all along. The people who said don't lock down were right. I've said it. When they first locked down, they said 15 days to slow the spread. I was talking to Jeremy, the God King, on the phone, and I said, well, we don't really know what this is yet, and maybe they're right. He said, no, once they do it, they will not open up again. And I told him, you were right, I was wrong. Not that hard. It's not that hard to say you were right, I was wrong, when I was wrong and he was right. It doesn't happen very often also, so it's fine. But still, this is what cancel culture is. Because listen, and I'm going to talk about that next. This is what I'm going to talk about, is about defining cancel culture and getting to it. But I just want to close with another thing that Mar said that gives credence to what Adam said. This is cut 3.
California just passed a law requiring large retailers to have a non-gendered toy section. A non-gendered toy section? Isn't Ken enough? We need a law for that? Do you have to inject yourselves into everything? From where you can throw a frisbee to who can braid hair? This is why so many people, by the way, were triggered by COVID policies. They were already sick of rules.
See, that is conservatism. What they do with conservatives is they say, you don't want any regulations. You don't want you don't want any government. We know there has to be a government. We all read our Madison. We know that men aren't angels and you need a government. All the conservatives are really saying is understand that taxes, welfare, regulations are all temptations to the powerful. When they say we need more, what they mean is they need more, right? They need more money. They need more influence. They need more power. We should have a little bit of suspicion, just enough to make the news an attack on whoever is in power. As I've said a million times, I don't mind if they treat Donald Trump like they treated him, so as unfairly as they treated him, as long as they treat everybody like that, climb down everybody's throat. I'd be happy to see it. Whereas if they criticize Joe Biden for getting chocolate chip ice cream instead of vanilla, they think that they are actually doing the same thing they did to Donald Trump when they accused him of being a Russian asset, okay? They're wrong. They've been wrong about everything. And that is it really is what cancel culture is all about. If you like this great content, subscribe and like. And if you want more Klavan-y goodness, subscribe to my podcast wherever you get your podcasts.